All right, we have a recap coming in for Thursday. Um, yeah, bearish day. We finally got some type of continuation of a move, but overall still kind of meh. Now overnight we have actually ran this low, so we actually like had some follow through. It's this morning right now, and I replayed away that part, but yeah, anyway, so we had a nice bearish day yesterday, and honestly, it was pretty clean in a way. And the reason I say that is overnight we had pushed lower, and if we mark out this low here, we can see that we had this hourly gap resting, and essentially, you can't tell this here, but at 9:30 we ran into the hourly gap before we ran this low. So then we rejected the hourly gap, ran the low. Pretty clean. From there, we then dropped a little lower, ended up retracing, not quite taking out that 9 a.m. high, and then fully getting the continuation lower. But like this first move was pretty clean, in my opinion. Unfortunately for me, it happened right off the open, so not in a macro. Yeah. Then afterwards, I guess we had high time frame SMT at 950, and one could have framed potential for long, which we do see here kind of playing out. I'll get into that when we get down to the 1 minute. Yeah, then 10:45-ish, like 10:50 macro, I would have been looking for a con from this 15 minute, or I was, but we didn't really get anything, so yeah. And then 11:50, again, really didn't get much. We were just kind of consolidating here. And then in the 12:50 macro, we had just run up into this 15-minute bearish gap, and we got consecutive candle SMT with YM like this. That little mark out here, 1 o'clock being lower than 12:45, and we had these kind of like relative equals down here, which I did target, and we did run. And then 150 really was nothing. So yeah, I mean, we do have a few things to look into now, as I just showed. I do also have a few markups, and I do always kind of want to get rid of these because I find they just look a little ugly on the chart when they take up so much space. Okay, essentially, this 930 SMR was so clean. I took it on the lucid counts, just shorted right here, and then wrote it down to this low, 2 cons per. Really clean, but as I mentioned, it was before the macro, so not anything to actually trade. Then this, we had the high time frame SMT. We first had like this kind of like little 1 minute breaker that we closed above inside the macro, and right away, like I made the decision that I don't want to trade this. Like the first 1 minute breaker off like a high time frame liquidity pool, and technically if this were to go long, you'd essentially be trying to frame a high time frame, like a daily reversal on the daily chart, obviously, but like a high time frame reversal off a 1 minute, like the first 1 minute breaker. So it was kind of iffy to me. Also, we had like a 5 minute gap that we were trading up into there, so I just kind of let it go, which ended up being a fantastic choice. Then we sweep the low, and then here we can see this typical, like, it's getting ready to go. We sweep, we get a big wick reaction out, next candle displaces, falls just shy of actually closing above, and then we get this wacky 1 minute bearish candle, which kind of but we recover it right away. We close above at 9:59, 10 a.m. opens, trades down a little, and flies. Now, what was the issue with this trade? Simply put, 84-point stop loss is crazy. So what I decided to do was I decided to run a 60 point stop. And I did the same on MNQ. And I actually, like on MNQ, it actually was like, it looked more like this. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. Now the issue with this was like, even trying to take this from like a discounted position to make up for the bigger stop, which was what I was trying to do. We closed, and at 10 o'clock and 0 seconds, we tap this, and at 10 o'clock and 1 second, we're back up here. So you literally had, after the close, you'd have to be quicker than a second to press and get your order through, and then for the order to fill. I was not that, bro. Like, it was not that for me. Like, let me see if I replay this, and then I pull back this. Maybe I can show it here too. Yeah. So this is the 1 second chart, and as you can see, 10 a.m. opens, the first second of the 10 a.m. candle taps, and then after that second, right, all the other seconds are never trading back down into here. And in those situations, man, it is near impossible. Unless you're like pre-firing the close above. But even that, like, it wasn't clear it was going to close above yet. Right? Like, price kind of was juking the breaker still. Like, and then like within the last few seconds, it kind of like pushed higher to close above. But like, I don't know, it wasn't really pre-fireable. Like, it wasn't like we were trading up here and it's like, all right, well, we're going to close above anyway. But yeah, unfortunate, because this actually ended up playing out. This would have also played out off the big breaker. But again, 84 points. I'm not trying to risk that much. Anyway, then throughout all this kind of like bullshit chop, I also longed one more time here on the Lucid accounts after we had this 1 minute reversal off the 15-minute gap, kind of expecting these relative equals. That didn't end up working out, but overall, this made about 600, this lost about 200, so I was up about 400, I think actually like 450 on the Lucid accounts to end the day, which, I mean, that's decent for just kind of trading them kind of whatever-ish. But yeah, nothing really happens other than that in these macros. And then eventually we pull up to the 1250 macro. We run into this 50-minute gap. We get a consecutive candle SMT. And we get this big displacement candle below this, a little bit kind of, cheap ass breaker, but it is a breaker nonetheless. I really have to say I don't love when our displacement comes from like one huge candle, because often that one huge candle can very well be manipulation. But yeah, we end up closing below here at the 1 p.m. open too, so the big candle was even hourly open. Yeah, then from there, chop. At this point, it was looking pretty good. We had like a 5-minute gap here. And like when we were down here, we had inversed the 5-minute and like retapped it probably here, and then continued lower off of it. And I was like, okay, there's relative equals here, relative equal here. We get this huge push towards stop loss, right? Stop loss is up here. I looked at my phone because I like to walk away from the chart when I'm in trades. I looked at my phone at this point. I was like, damn, we're cooked. I walk up here to kind of like, journal. Not even journal the trade, but just like usually when a trade stops out or hits CP, I like to just check that, make sure that it actually happened on MNQ2. I walk up here and I was like, ooh, and then we start going the other way. Man, I was ready to close this when we got to break even at some point, but I was just like, okay, let me see a ride. Like, I honestly was thinking about closing it up here for like a discounted loss. Then I remembered that one time where I closed for the discounted loss and price turned around and ripped in my direction. And yeah, so I was happy about that. Then TP was like here. Like this is where 2R was essentially. And when we were floating here on this 1346 candle, like when we had just opened like right here, I was like, okay, we're about to push into TP, and I had my mouse hovered over the closed position because like the limit on MNQ seemed a little deeper than the 2R marking out on NQ. And my finger slipped. I closed the trade down here. So for like a little less than 2R. Then with what followed, I'm very happy about that. But technically speaking, it would not have really changed the outcome because even though it would have definitely gave me some gray hair, we never actually hit break even here. And then eventually we go to where TP would have been. So yeah, but just a little finger slip. Nah, but for real, like I didn't mean to do that, and there was like in no world am I trying to re-enter then. Anyway, what can I say? Because of that, the trade also ended up kind of being like closer to 1R almost than 2, to be honest. Like the loss I took earlier this week was a 130 loss. Okay, top sub X. Partner? No? No top sub X today? Let me quit Safari and restart it. The loss I took on Monday was basically just as big as the one I took today. Like it was like slightly different, but still. Yeah. So that'll go to show, right? 130 on Monday, 159 today for the win. So yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we get a trade tomorrow. Or maybe we go 3 Fridays in a row without a setup. That could be 2. For some reason, I just saw that. That would, interesting. Yeah. Yeah. That's that. Peace it out.